Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2,115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. There's an awful lot going on in this question. Whenever there's an awful lot going on, it's always best to draw a diagram. So we're going to start off at Chelton, which is a C. Then we go to Bolko, that's where we're going. And we go through Devley on the way, so we'll do D there. Distance from Chelton to Devley is 34 miles. Distance from Devley to Bovlo is 16 miles. So I'm just reading through the question, adding it to my diagram. David leaves Chelton at 9 o'clock. He drives from Chelton to Devley an average speed of 68 miles per hour. And what speed does David travel between Devley and Bolko to arrive at 9:45? So the whole duration of this, the whole thing needs to be 45 minutes or 0.75 hours. And the entire distance is 34 plus 16, so that would be 50 miles. Okay, now having a look at this, we need to find out what time David was at Devley. So we're going to use our speed distance time triangle. So speed equals distance over time, and we're covering up the time because that's the one we want. So it's going to be time equals distance, which is 34, over speed, which is 68. So we're going to do 34 divided by 68, which is 0.5. So it would be 0.5 hours. So that would be half an hour. So we will be at Devley at 9:30. So that means we've got 15 minutes left. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes to travel the 16 miles. So this time we're looking for the speed. Okay, so it will be speed equals the distance, which is 16 miles, over time, which is 15 minutes, but we need that in hours, so that would be 0.25 hours. And so what we can do here is times top 1 by 4 to get rid of the fraction. So it becomes 64 over 1, or just 64 miles per hour. So our answer is 64 miles per hour. So when you read this question, the question's basically asking you to find the bearing of O from B. So the lifeboat is at B, so I'm going to draw a north line here. And to find a bearing, you start from the north line and you keep going clockwise. So we're going to look for this angle here. Now, this angle, which is given to us in the question, and this angle here, which I'm just going to call x, are going to be equal. So x is going to equal 135 degrees. And the reason for that is we've basically got, and I'm just going to draw or extend the north line down, because we've basically got we have a set of parallel lines here, and we have a set of z angles, which we know is alternate angles. So the reason for that is it's alternate angles. And always show the reasons to the examiner. Okay, and so to find out what the bearing is, so the bearing of O from B, it's just going to be 360 take away 135, and the reason for that is angles on a point. We've run out of space. Okay, so we're going to do 360 take away 135, which is 225, and so our answer is 225. On a scatter graph, an outlier is a point which doesn't fit the pattern. And as we can see here, all of these coordinates fit kind of a nice line going down there. So they all are showing a trend. But we've got this point here that's nowhere near that trend at all. And that's what we call an outlier. So we know that these are going up in twos. So this will be 28. So the x coordinate will be 28. And this will be 19. So our coordinate will be 28, 19 for our outlier. So to find the gradient, we need the formula or the equation in the form y equals mx plus c. And the m there will give us what the gradient is. So we're just going to be rearranging this equation. And so I'll get my lines in. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the x's from the left hand side, and we can do that by adding 6x both sides. So we've got 6y equals, and I'm going to put the 6x first just to match the y equals mx plus c. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 6 because we just want a y there. So we're going to divide by 6 both sides. So we've got y equals 1x plus 36. Now we shouldn't really write 1, but because we're looking for m, we're looking for the number before x, I've kind of left it in there to show that the gradient will be 1. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. To find the mean, we need to work out the sum of the numbers, basically what they add up to. And what we then do is divide that by the amount of numbers. Now, what this table is telling us is there are 14 students who got a time between 0 and 4 seconds. Now, it's absolutely impossible to work out what time those students got with the information in this table. So what we need to do is we need to assume they all got, say, 0 seconds or all got 4 seconds. And the fairest value to say that they all got is what we call the midpoint. And to find the midpoint, what you do is you add up the lower bound and the upper bound, so the highest value and the lowest value, add them together and divide by 2. So 0 plus 4 divided by 2, which is just 2. And that gives us a halfway number, which is fair to everyone. So the students roughly probably got 1s, 2s and 3s, and maybe a few 4s maybe. And the average of that is going to be 2, so that's fair for everyone. Same with the 4 and the 8. Halfway between 4 and 8 is 6, and you can add them together, 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Go down finding the midpoints, and we're just going to assume the students all scored the same amount, all got the same time. Then we're going to do our FS column, okay? And so we're assuming that 14 students got a time of 2 seconds, so when you times those together, you get 28. And we're just going to times all of these together. Okay, next we're going to work out the sum of the FS. And to work that out, we just add all of these up together. So we're going to do 28 plus 36 plus 30 plus 126 plus 36. And when you add them all up, you get 256. Now, that will give us the sum of numbers, so we're going to put that into our working out now. And we need to find out how many numbers there are. Well, the frequency column will tell us how many numbers there are, so we're just going to add all of those up together. So we're going to find the sum of the frequency, which is 14 plus 6 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2, which is 34. And when we do 256 divided by 34, we get 7.529 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so we're going to round it to 7.53. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10. And we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets, and we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So we're going to first of all convert the 11 litres into millilitres. So we're going to do 11 times 1,000, which would be 11,000. Okay, so we're going to just draw a line, like a number line. And we're going to have the 11,000 in the middle. Now, what would be the next one down if we're looking at to the nearest 10 mil? So we're going to add a 10 mil on, which will be 11,010, and we're going to take the 10 mil away. So 11,000 take away 10 mil will be 10, 990. Now when we're looking at limits, with the upper and lower part of it, we are looking at halfway points. So halfway here and halfway here. So this halfway point will be 10,995, and the next one will be 11,005, and that's the halfway points. And so that is going to be our upper and lower bound. And we just need to say that V can be anything above the 10,995 and including that, and it can be anything below 11,005, but it can't include that, because if it was 11,005, it would have rounded up to 11,010. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, but if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, it's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11, and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power 4s together, and remember with indices, if you times two powers of the same base, and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8. And we're going to add the w to the power 5s together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8, w to the power of 10. With these questions, it's normally easier to view these as two separate triangles. So we've got a small triangle here with 19 and 47. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out. And we've got a bigger triangle here. And we've got, we've got a bit of, we don't really know what any of the sides are just yet, but we can work them out. Okay, now we know that both of these triangles are similar, and the reason is they share an angle and the lengths at the bottom are parallel, so they will be similar, which means one's an enlargement of the other. And we are given some information in the question that the ratio of BC to DE is 1 to 6. So BC is this length here, and DE is this length here. So we're actually given the scale factor, because we know that 1 times 6 is 6. So we know the scale factor is 6, and it's asking us to find length AD. And so the corresponding length to AD, which is this one here. So all we need to do is get that 47, times it by the scale factor, so times it by 6 to get to our value. So it's 282. So this question will probably need a Venn diagram just to make it a bit easier. So I'm going to draw a Venn diagram. You don't need to. If you can work out how to do this question without, you can do, but I think this is a really tricky question to do without a Venn diagram. So it says that they picked two activities. It was either painting, which I'll put as a P, and sport, which I'll put as an S. So let's start filling in the information it gives us. So 11 picked painting and sport, so that will go in the middle, because that is painting and sport, and 11 didn't pick painting or sport, so they can sit on the outside. Now here's the problem. It says twice as many people picked sport than painting, as one of their activities. So it's saying that the total number in, and let's just show it, the total number in the sports circle is twice as big as the total number in the painting circle. Now, what we can do is we can say, okay, so if the painting we label as X, then the sport will be 2X. But if you look, we've already got a number already in the sport, that 11 there. So in algebra, this will be 2X, take away the 11 that we already know about. And the painting is the same. We know the whole thing is X. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take away the bit we know there, which is the 11, and it will be X minus 11. Now, we know that there are 66 students in total. So what we can do now is add up all of the parts of the Venn diagram and get it equal to 66. So X minus 11 plus 11 plus 2X minus 11 plus 11, and all of that will equal 66. This is going to be some solving, so we're just going to put our lines in. Now here we've got X plus 2X, which is 3X. And if I put my tool right, there we are. And we've got minus 11 plus 11, minus 11 plus 11. Well, those just cancel out. So we're left with just the 3X equals, and then 66. We're going to divide that 3 both sides. So we've got X equals 22. So if we go back to our Venn diagram now, we can fill in the blanks. So instead of X minus 11 there, we've got 22 take away 11, which is just 11. Instead of 2X minus 11 there, we've got 22 times 2, which is 44, take away 11, which will be 33. So it says, find the amount that picked sport and not painting, which is this 33 here. With this question, you've just got to know what the different functions look like. So with C and D, we've got quadratic functions. One's a positive quadratic, which is a U shape. One's a negative quadratic, which is a kind of upside down U shape or an N shape. And here we don't have that, so we can get rid of those in our thoughts straight away. A is a positive cubic, which goes up, then down, then up again. And B is a negative cubic, which goes down, up, and then down again. So this one here goes up, down, up again. That's going to be a positive cubic. So our answer is A. The arc is a section of the circumference, and I'll show it on the diagram here. This is the arc. And to find the length of the arc, we use a simple formula, and I'm just going to explain what the formula does. So the arc length is equal to the fraction of the circle that you've got, and we times that by the circumference of the circle. Now, to find the fraction of the circle we've got, we work out the angle of the sector and we divide it by 360, because there are 360 degrees in a full circle. Times that by the circumference, and circumference is just going to be pi times the diameter. The angle is 61 degrees. Now the diameter, if you imagine that the circle is all the way around, so it's a full circle, you can see the 6 centimeters here is the radius. So if we carry that on, there'll be another 6 centimeters here, so the diameter will be 12. Just 2 lots of the radius. Type that into a calculator and we get 6.387, blah blah blah. And it says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so when we round that it comes to 6.39. So stratified sampling is basically trying to pick a sample that reflects the population. So if we look here, there's a lot more people who are male and pick the log flume than female who pick the log flume, for instance. So we look at the fraction of people in our population who, and in this case we're looking at male who went on the log flume, so male who went on the log flume. So it's 31 males went on the log flume out of 131 in our population. So that's the fraction of the sample that we want to pick. The sample is 15, so what we do is we times that by 15 to find out what 131ths of 15 is. If you do that on a calculator, you get 3.549 blah blah blah. And the problem is we can't pick 3.5th of a person, so we round that to the nearest integer, so that would be 4. The formula for the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So we're going to do 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed, which is 17. And that gives us 20,579.526, blah, blah, blah. So to 2 decimal places, that would be 20,579.53. So we can see with this simultaneous equation, we've got the coefficients of the x being different and the coefficients of the y being different. So we're going to focus on making sure that the coefficients of the y, the 3 and the 5, are the same. So we've got to figure out the lowest common multiple of 3 and 5, which is going to be 15. And so I've got to make them both 15. So we're going to start by writing out the first equation. And there's nothing to stop you getting the x's the same. I just always focus on the y's. And we're going to times everything by 5 to get that y to be 15. So 5 times 5 is 25x plus 15y, and then we're going to do 8.5 times 5, which is 42.5. And we're going to do the same with the second equation. Just going to write it out, and then we're going to make that second term 15y. And we're going to do that by times everything by 3. So 6x times 3 is 18x plus 15y, and then that's going to be 18. So we're going to write these equations again, so we can work our simultaneous equation magic on them. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just do my circles going downwards, because simultaneous equations are all about going downwards. And I'm going to look at the signs of the y's because we made them both the same. So looking at the signs though, if the signs are the same, we're going to subtract. If the signs are different, we're going to add. So the S is same, S in subtract, D in different, D in add. Now you can see that they're both pluses, so they're the same, so therefore we're going to subtract. And we're not just going to subtract those, we're going to subtract all the numbers going downwards. So we're going to start off with 25x take away 18x, which is 7x. 15y take away 15y is nothing, which is good. We need that to be 0. And then 42.5 take away 18, which is 24.5. Get our solving lines in. We're going to divide both sides by 7 to get x on its own. So we've got x equals 24.5 divided by 7, which is 3.5. Okay, but that's only half the battle. We've got to work out what y is. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute that into the first equation. So we've got 5 times 3.5, because we know what x is, plus 3y equals 8.5. And so 5 times 3.5 is 17.5, so we're going to subtract 17.5 from both sides. And that's going to give us minus 9. And then we've got 3y, so we want to divide by 3 both sides, which would be minus 3. We can check that by substituting it into the second equation. So 6 times 3.5 plus 5 times minus 3, and that does equal 6. First thing we need to do is find out what 10% of the 109 is. So we're just going to multiply by 0.1. and that gives us 10.9. So what we're going to do is we're going to add and subtract this from 109. So we're going to do 109 take away 10.9, which gives us 98.1. And then we're going to do 109 plus 10.9, which will give us 119.9. So our error interval is between 98.1, and it says to use t, and 119.9. So when we find the mean of something, we add the elements together and we divide them by the amount of elements. So here we've got 3 elements. So what we're going to do is add these together and then divide by 3. Now the problem is that the denominators are not the same, so we can't add them yet. But they're all factors of 45. So we're going to times top and bottom of the first one by 9. So we end up with 9k over 45. We're going to times top and bottom by 3. And so it would be 3 brackets k plus 1 over 45. And the last one is over 45, so we don't need to do anything for that. Then we can just add the numerators together. And I'm just going to expand the bracket here, so it's 3k plus 3 plus k plus 4, and then all of that over 45. And then we're going to do 9k plus 3k plus k, which is going to be 13k, and then 3 plus 4, which is just 7, over 45. So the sum of them is 13k plus 7 over 45. So to work out the mean, we need to divide it by 3. But instead of writing divide by 3, we know KFC, keep, flip, change. If you have a division, you keep the first fraction, you change the divide into a times, and you flip the second fraction. So a different and easier way of writing that is times 1/3. So here we just keep the numerator the same because we're timesing it by 1. And then the bottom we just times by the 3, which would be 135. So our answer is 13k plus 7 over 135. So we're going to first of all find out how many potatoes were below 22 grams. So we're going to draw a line up at 22 and a line across, and that is 13. So there are 13 potatoes below 22 grams. And so to work out the probability of picking one below 22 grams, it's the amount that we have below that amount, or below that weight, over the total amount of potatoes, which will be 20. So it'd be 13 over 20, which is equal to 65 over 100. So that would be 65%. So we're told that y is inversely proportional to the cube root of x. And to get rid of this proportionality sign here, we just convert it to an equals and times the right hand side by k, which represents a constant. And we now need to figure out what that constant is. So we're going to feed in the value of y and x that's given to us in the question. So we've got 10 equals k over the cube root of 343. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve that. So put our lines in. Now the cube root of 343 is 7. So we can actually just, it's a lot easier. And we're just going to times both sides by 7. So k equals 70. And we're just going to rewrite this. But instead of k, we're just going to write 70. So y equals 70 over the cube root of x. So with all these circle theorem questions, there's multiple ways of doing it. I'm going to show one way, but if you've got a different way and you get the right answer in correct methods, then please feel free to use that. First thing I'm going to notice is we've got a lot of tangents touching radii. So we've got 2 radii here and here. And whenever we've got a tangent touching a radius, it's always going to be 90 degrees. And so I'm just going to show these all on the diagram as 90 degrees. And then we're going to say angle OBC equals angle OBA equals angle ADO equals 90 degrees. And we have to show the reasons. Most of the marks in this question will be for the reason. So it's going to be a tangent radius equals 90 degrees. And try and write out the full reasons. I'm going to just keep it a little bit contained, just so I can fit this answer all on the same slide. Okay, so the first thing I'm realizing is that there's a nice little quadrilateral here. And whenever we've got quadrilateral and we've got three of the sides, we can work out the last one. So angle DOB is going to be 360, take away the angles that we know, so 90 plus 90 plus 48. And the reason for that is angles in quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. And so when you do 360, take away that, you get 132 degrees. So this is 132. But we also have this angle here, which is also angle DOB, but I'm going to call this kind of the reflex one. And to work this one out, we just do 360, take away 132. And the reason for that is angles on a point equal 360 degrees. And so we're going to do 360, take away 132, which is 228. So this is 228 degrees. Now we can also use the circle theorem to work out this one, because we've got an angle at the centre and an angle at the circumference. And the angle at the centre is twice the angle at the circumference. So angle DFB is going to be 132 divided by 2. Angle at centre twice angle at circumference. Okay, so when we halve that, so 132, and we're going to halve it, so that's 66 degrees. We should really put degrees on these. Okay, the next one we're going to work out is this angle here, which is angle OBF. There's no reason for this, it's just the whole thing is 90. We're taking away the 77, so that would be 13 degrees. So that's a nice easy one. Let's just put the 66 degrees on our diagram as well. And the final thing really here is that we've got a quadrilateral here, kind of arrowhead. And we've got three of the angles, 1, 2, 3, and we're looking for the third one. So angle ODF is going to be 360, take away all the angles that we know. So the 228, the 13 and the 66, and the reason being the same as before, so angles in quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees, and when you do that you get the answer of 53 degrees. So this angle here is going to be 53 degrees. We're going to start by working out what outcomes will give us two different types of drink. So we could have OA or AO. We could have AW or WA. And we could have OW or WO. Now what we notice really when we do this is that OA gives us the same probability as AO. Same with AW and WA, same with OW and WO. So we're going to just ignore the right hand side ones, and we're just going to focus on the left hand side ones. To work out the probability of O and then A, so orange juice then apple juice, we work out the fact that it's 6 over, well, the probability of picking orange juice first of all is 6 over 27. And then if we picked an orange juice, the probability of picking an apple juice would be 9 over 26. And so that would be 54 over 702. Apple juice then water. would be 9 over 27, and then 12 over 26, and so that would be 108 over 702. And then orange juice, then water will be 6 over 27 and 12 over 26, and that would be 72 over 702. Now we're looking at the probability of this or this or this, and the word or means add. So the probability of OA or, I should put that in brackets, probability of OA or AW or OW is these added together, and when you add them together you get 234 over 702. Now I said we would deal with the reverse situations now. We're going to deal with that now, and as I said, OA is going to be equal to AO, AW is equal to WA, and OW is equal to WO. So all we need to do to find the probability that the drinks are different is get the 234 over 702 and just double it. And we can do that by just doubling the numerator. So 468 over 702. That cancels down to 2/3. So there is a 2/3 chance that the drinks will be different. To solve when we've got two equations that aren't linear, and here we've got a linear and a circle equation, what we're going to do is we're going to solve by substitution. We're going to substitute one into the other. So here we're told that y is equal to 3x plus 11, and we actually have a y in our second equation. So what we're going to do is just substitute it in. So we've got x squared plus, and instead of y, I'm going to say what the first equation is. I'm just going to replace it for what y equals in the first equation, which is 3x plus 11. And it's y squared, so it's that squared, equals 125. Okay. Now we need to expand the brackets there. And so we're going to have x squared, and you can use any method you want. And don't forget, when you square brackets, that's just going to be 3x plus 11 brackets 3x plus 11. So we're going to do 3x squared, which is 9x. So how are we going to write this? So plus 9x squared. And then we've got 3x times 11 plus 3x times 11, which is 33x plus 33x, which is 66x. And then we've got 11 times 11, which is 121. Now at this point we want everything to equal 0 because it is a quadratic. So to solve it we need it to equal 0. So we're just going to tidy it up and add the bits that need to be added, and we're also going to subtract 125 both sides to get it equal to 0. So x squared plus 9x squared is going to be 10x squared. So we might as well just write it as 10x squared. We've got 66x just on its own, and we've got 121, take away 125, which is minus 4, equal to 0. Now it says it wants our answers to two decimal places, so chances are these won't factorise nicely, so we're going to be using the quadratic formula. And so we need to find out what a, b and c are. So a is the number before the x squared, the coefficient of the x squared, which is 10. B is the coefficient of the x, which is 66, and c is the number on its own at the end, which is minus 4. The quadratic formula will be minus b, and I always put the values we substitute into brackets, because if they're negative that really helps us, plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all of that over 2 times a. When you put that as a plus, then into the calculator we get x equals 0.060 blah blah blah, and when you put a minus there we get the answer of minus 6.660, blah, blah, blah. Now, you might think, well, how are we going to find out what the y's are? Well, if x is 0.06, blah, 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 we've got an equation here that says to find out what y is, we times the x by 3 and we add 11. So we're going to times that first solution by 3, then add 11, and that gives us that y is 11.180, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do that with the next solution, and we're going to times it by 3 and add 11. And when we do that, we get minus 8.980, blah, blah, blah. We're going to round each of these to 2 decimal places. So we've got 0.06 and 11.18. And the second set of solutions is minus 6.66 and y equals minus 8.98. So to find the shaded part of this diagram, we need to first of all work out the volume of the smaller cone, which is at the top, then work out the volume of the larger cone, which is the whole cone shown, and then take them away from each other. So the radius for the smaller cone is 4 and the height is 5. And the radius for the larger cone is 20 and the height is the 20 plus the 5, so it would be 25. So I'm just going to label them A and B. And so why don't we work out the volume for B first? And the formula for the volume of a cone is a third pi r squared h, with h being the perpendicular height. So it's a third times pi times 20 squared times 25, which is going to be 10,471.975, blah, blah, blah. We're going to work out the volume for A, and this time it will be a third times pi times the radius now is 4, and the height is 5. So that will be 83.775, blah, blah, blah. So to work out the shaded bit, we're just going to do the volume for B, take away the volume for A. So it's going to be 10,471.975, take away 83.775. And all those I'm going to keep in the calculator to keep the accuracy. And that gives us 10,388.199, blah, blah, blah. And to 2 decimal places, it's going to be 10,388.20. We're going to start off this question by finding length BD, and we do that by doing a little right angle triangle down here, and let's draw that right angle triangle out. Okay, so we've got a length of 4 on ED, length of 3 on BE, and we're looking for length BD. So we're going to use Pythagoras. So we've got BD squared equals BE squared plus ED squared. Get our little tram lines in. Okay, so BE is 3, so it's going to be 3 squared plus 4 squared, and that's going to equal 25. Square root both sides, and we've got BD is equal to square root of 25, which is just 5. Okay, we need to now work out what MD is, because we're looking for length AM. So MD is actually just going to be half of BD. So it's going to be half of 5, which is just going to be 2.5. The reason for that is that all of the lengths AB, AC, AD, AE, all of them are the same, so therefore point A will be exactly at the midpoint or above the midpoint of the square, so M is obviously at the midpoint. Okay, next we're going to draw in another right angle triangle. It doesn't actually matter which side we take. I'm just going to take this side because we've worked out what MD is. And let's draw that out down here. Okay, so we've got the length of 5 here. We know the bottom bit is 2.5, and we're looking for the length AM. So another bit of Pythagoras here. So AM squared is going to equal, and we're looking for AM, yep. AM squared is going to equal AD squared, take away MD squared, and AD squared is going to be 5 squared minus 2.5 squared, which is going to equal 18.75. Then we'll square root both sides. I haven't put my tramlines in. Let's get those in as well. Make sure it's all neat and tidy. So we've got AM is equal to 4.330, and because it says 2 decimal places, we want to write down the answer 4.33 centimeters. As always with this type of question, we want to represent the 3-dimensional shape with 2-dimensional shapes. So we're going to start off with a right angled triangle between BD, E, and then back to B. And we're just going to draw it out. And so we've got 5 centimeters here, 3 centimeters here, and we've got the length BD here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Pythagoras to find out what the length BD is. So BD squared equals BE squared plus ED squared. And let's get our tram lines in. So we know that BE is 3, and we know that ED is 5. That's going to equal 34. Square root both sides, and we've got BD equals, and we can leave this as just square root of 34, but if we want to write out exactly what it is, then it's 5.830 blah blah blah, and we're going to keep that into our calculator. Next we're going to work out distance MD. Now M is in the, like, it's a midpoint in this diagram. So we just, all we do to work out what MD is get BD divided by 2, and that's going to equal 2.915, etc, etc. I'll keep it in my calculator still. Now the next right angle triangle we want to draw is to find out, in fact I'm going to pick a different colour because that's a bit too similar. Let's go for a purple. So we're looking at this triangle here. So let's draw that one out. Okay, so we've got 6 centimeters down the hypotenuse, and we've got this 2.915 blah 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 down the bottom, and we're looking for angle ADB. Sorry, yeah, so it's ADM or ADB, which is this one here. And ADB and ADM will be exactly the same because you can see that B and M are the same angle from D. Okay, so we're going to use trigonometry for this because we've got 2 lengths and an angle in a right angle triangle. So labelling the sections, we've got the hypotenuse here, we've got the adjacent here, and we're not using the opposite at all. So the adjacent and hypotenuse means we'll be using cos, C-A-H, and so it's going to be cos brackets ADB is going to equal the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Let's get our tram lines in. Okay, that's going to equal 2.915 blah 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 over the hypotenuse, which is 6. Now we're going to inverse cos both sides to get rid of the cos on the left hand side. So we've just got ADB equals, and it will be the inverse cos of 2.915 blah 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 over 6. Now I'm keeping that in my calculator, so what I'm going to do is inverse cos, which will open a bracket, and then fraction button, and then answer over 6, and that gives me 60.927 blah blah blah. Says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so to 2 decimal places that will be 60.93. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.